All right, I'm streaming every 2 weeks, so obviously I'm going to be a bit late on some trends. And the trend I want to talk about, or the subject I want to talk about now, I'm late on. Absolutely, it's been 2 weeks now, but I really want to talk about it because I thought it was really, really interesting. It's not something I can necessarily talk about in a video on the canvas. So this topic is The Last of Us Episode 3. I absolutely loved The Last of Us Episode 3. I hope most of you watched it. And I think it was slightly controversial because it was depicting and I won't spoil, though, it might spoil a little bit, but at this point, it's been 2 weeks. I'm late on the trend, whatever. But it depicts a homosexual relationship, which in this political climate, especially in the United States, that's it's ballsy, and especially considering that The Last of Us is an adaptation of of a video game, which in the video game it's not overtly it's not explicitly said that the couple is that the two guys are a couple. It takes balls for people to to say, all right, we're going to talk about a gay relationship and we're going to make two characters gay, even though they're not explicitly gay in the game. And it was slightly controversial, I think, because people were like, why why are they pushing this gay couple on us, this gay love story that's not even about, the mushroom zombies of the show. I think it was one of the best episodes of TV I've ever watched. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but to me at least, it was one of the best, not TV shows, but TV show episode I've seen. And the reason for that is people were angry because it didn't show zombies. It was not even about, the situation, but I would argue that it's extremely relevant to the situation in the show. I think the best way to look at the gay relationship in that show is to think, would it be different if it was a straight couple? Would that story be as relevant if it was a woman and a man? And I think it wouldn't be. I think I would gladly say I think it would be a lot less good if it was a guy and a girl. The reason for that is, there's many reasons for that. I think mostly because you don't really see the gay relationship coming at the beginning of the episode. When I first saw the episode, I didn't know that these two guys would turn out to be gay. So I think it's Bill and Frank. Bill finds Frank in a hole, and Bill has this little castle thing and invites Frank in the castle, to help him out because, he's in a post-apocalyptic hell scenario. If Frank had been a woman, it would have been obvious that Bill and that woman would have been together. Obviously, Bill has built his little castle for himself, sees a damsel in distress, picks her up, brings him in the castle, and then, they live together forever. And that would have been predictable. It would have been it would have been a long show, whatever. But because the two characters are two men, I feel like it creates this tension where both of them don't know the intentions of the others. Both of them don't even know if the other is gay. They probably don't even think about it. So there's this tension all throughout the beginning before they start dating, where you don't know what either's intentions are. Is one of them into it? Is one of them not? There's many questions. And is one going to use the other through their relationship? Is one going to kill the other or steal from the other? Despite the relationship, because they're two men, and we obviously assume that they're going to be maybe more aggressive towards one another. And so first, this relationship being gay adds this element of surprise or of uncertainty, which a man and a woman wouldn't have had. However, I think another reason why they're the gay couple in The Last of Us Episode 3 was amazing is because you rarely see two guys helping each other, even if they were friends, even if they weren't a couple. You see two men being being helpful towards one another. It's not about dominating or about being, the provider, which a lot of men will feel like they have to be especially in a scenario of post-apocalyptic, hell, whatever. A lot of men will have to be the provider and show that, like prove their manliness in that scenario. And I was talking about it with the person who was supposed to be the guest on today's stream, and I was talking to him about it, and he said that very often those post-apocalyptic TV series or shows are very often more of like a conservative circle jerk, where conservatives love the idea of like, no government and human nature is inherently bad and people are going to fight each other, whatever. But here you see two men not only helping each other but loving each other, and I feel like that's amazing. You don't have these men who are, in competition, but actually cooperating in a loving way, and not cooperating in a like, they're not cooperating because they need to. They cooperate because they want to, and I love that. And finally, because the most important part of why the gay relationship is so important, I feel like, or says a lot, not only about the post-apocalyptic scenario, but about queerness in general, is that Bill and Frank, especially Bill is a closeted gay person. Bill is portrayed as someone who, falls in love with Frank, but Bill would have never been out of the closet had the world played out as it does now, where people just live in a community. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Bill would have been closeted his whole life if society hadn't crumbled. And society crumbling, the eyes or the gaze of others, the perception of others didn't affect him because there was no others to perceive him. And because of that, he's allowed to be gay, or he's allowing himself to be openly gay with Frank. And I feel like that says a lot about, about closeted, or the idea that a lot of people, queer people, are closeted. That it took this man, the crumbling of society, for him to finally be with someone he loves, to be in a loving relationship. And I find that so beautiful. I find that extremely beautiful. So yeah, no, I don't think the story would have been the same had it been. I think the love story between a guy and a girl would have been extremely boring, corny, and it would have sucked. But the queer story says a lot about being queer, says a lot about the world we live in, both right now and the perception of others, but also the world they live in post-apocalyptically. But yeah, no, I think it was a really, really good twist. And I saw, I think it's Ben Shapiro who said that, we like, what we want is not like a gay relationship. We want guns. We want, not guns, but like we want like the zombies. We want them to fight zombies. We want them to run away from zombies. We want to feel the thrill. And there wasn't any zombies in there. But I think that's missing the point. Like this show is not necessarily, doesn't have to be always a roller coaster. It doesn't need to be a theme park, to use an expression I've used in the past and that others have used as well. Like sometimes exploring, how the crumbling of society will affect marginalized groups can be super interesting, especially since it hasn't been done ever before. Or maybe it has. I'm not a very big TV consumer. But yeah, no, I'd like to know what you guys think about that. What you think about, have you watched episode 3 of The Last of Us? Tony says, hi Tony. Tony says, I agree on that. Sometimes showing tenderness between men has a civilizing quality to it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like the civilizing quality to it. It shows that these two guys are not just out there surviving. And just by the fact that Bill cooks like some really nice meals, like, yeah, it is civilizing. It's not just oh, the bear, the bear, the men that are, you know, surviving, and they're in the wilderness scavenging for food. No, there's civilization growing out of a really shitty situation. Absolutely. Paige says, I know a lot of trans girls who came out during the pandemic. Yeah, that's, I feel like that's a good way of seeing it. Like the with the pandemic, how less and less, through less social interactions. Yes, it does have its bads. Less social interactions, less seeing people less, but at the same time, you don't have the judgment of others being so heavy on you all the time. Yeah, because those situations about isolation, like the pandemic, really allow people to know themselves. Yeah, absolutely, Moth. And also, situations where you have to live, not necessarily survive, like you need to survive, but very engaging situations, in the sense that you're not just in a routine that's like, uh, eat, go to work, sleep, eat, go to work, sleep. Like you're not engaging with the world as much as you could, for a lot of people. Not that, work can be very engaging for some people, but to a lot of people, it's alienating. I made a video on that with Taxi Driver. But yeah, but like those situations, like in a post-apocalyptic situation, people need to also engage with the world a lot more, learn the world a lot more. Their new world, they need to learn it, and that makes you also discover yourself. And I think that might, you can learn the world in a different way as well. Now you don't need you don't need zombies to do that, and you can learn yourself in a different way. Someone says, yes, I saw that with COVID, as a lot of friends and people around me came out and found themselves during the pandemic. That's really good. I'm very happy to hear that. I didn't know about that. I did not hear about that, but I'm very happy that it's something that people have been noticing. Also, there's the whole idea that since the pandemic, and a bit before, it's been, especially for in terms of trans rights, it's been more and more normalized and in discourse. Now we're seeing a pushback from conservatives, but 10, 15 years ago, the whole idea of being trans wasn't as mainstream as it is today, which is also a good thing. It's not a good thing that it wasn't mainstream 15 years ago. It's a good thing that's mainstream now, obviously. Ethan says, I for one hate the idea that men must be rough and rugged, especially around other men, as they feel the need to compete. It seems we cannot just be without competition. Absolutely. And I feel like this people who complain, or men who complain about the pressures of being men and feel like the world is unfair, which are usually a lot of them are conservatives, hated that show because it was gay people. But that show does criticize elements of masculinity, which forces you into a corner, which alienates you. This masculinity that a lot of guys will complain about, which is very isolating, which is very, you have to compete against other men, you have to be rough and rugged, you need to be the provider, you have to be independent and all that. Well, this is being deconstructed in that episode, and it's being deconstructed in a way that I feel is it's not necessarily super leftist. It's not super politically engaged, in the sense that it's not partisan. So I think, anybody can see that and be like, yeah, actually it's good to see men not competing, not being rough and rugged, men just going about life and enjoying it and sharing it with other men and being happy about it. Yeah, Panos says gay characters are often portraited as stereotypes of aggressive and submissive in most media. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like in The Last of Us episode 3, there wasn't that. I mean, you could theorize on who's bottom, who's top. Like Bill being the person who has the house, and Frank being the one who's rescued, and Frank saying, I'm not a slut, I'm here because I want to stay here for a while. You could say like there is that relationship, and Frank saying, I want to paint the houses, I like growing strawberries. There is this, those roles, but I don't think it's as stereotypical as it could have been. I don't think it was problematic. Bill does do the cooking, which would have been associated to the girl in the relationship. But yeah, in most media, there's clearly the girl gay and the guy gay. I know only about in the UK, there's a lot of hate for trans people, unfortunately. Roman says, yeah, in the UK, Turf Island, absolutely. And the US is getting worse. I remember in my sociology of the body module, the most interesting aspect was that men do not realize that patriarchy they uphold is what hurts them. Yeah, absolutely. That's something I maybe one day I'll make a video on how masculinity or the idea of masculinity is like, even though like the whole concept of toxic masculinity and the whole like feminist version or vision of it does sound, or it can be perceived as anti-men, it's actually extremely pro-men and pro their issues. That's something I strongly believe, obviously. Like, men, it's something that I talk a lot about with ballet. It's not easy to be a man. People are gonna say, well, a lot of people think, it's, who cares, right? But no, it's not easy being a man. It's not easy, just living in the world right now. But there's male privilege, but there's also male disprivilege in a way. And very often, because male privilege is so strong, we don't see the flip side of it. But there's definitely a flip side. Isolation being one of them. I'm happy that I guzzle twinks. I'm happy that the showrunners were willing to go all the way with depicting the gay relationship on screen instead of implying it, or having the gay character having had an SO that died or turned. Yeah, I think even I was shocked by it. Even I was shocked by, and I'm queer myself. No, I was shocked by, you see a guy shirtless on top of another shirtless guy, and he's going down on him, and you almost see it. And I feel like, yeah, they went all the way, and that's good. That's good. They wouldn't be afraid of going all the way for a hetero relationship, or a hetero, like, no, they wouldn't be afraid of it. So I'm happy that they didn't have that double standard for a gay relationship. Yeah, personally, I don't like romantic theme in my storytelling. It's kind of boring to me. I understand that. Yeah, I do understand how romance can be sometimes forced and kind of boring. But as I said earlier, I think it introduced a lot of interesting elements that haven't necessarily been introduced before, or at least that I've seen. That romance, by virtue of being gay, not only criticized like the role of masculinity, but also the role of masculinity in a post-apocalyptic scene, and also how the perception of others can influence how we closet ourselves. Yeah.